I'm just happy that we're not going to record an entire episode and then realize that it wasn't recording. So,
let us never speak of that again. All right, coming up this week, Palpatine pulling strings, and is Anakin inching closer to the dark side? It's the Clone Wars Season 4, episodes 15, 16, 17, and 18, right here on your Star Wars safe space. Hey there, Star Warriors. Welcome to Star Wars Safe Space, your non-toxic, low-sodium Star Wars show that doesn't make you feel bad for not knowing that James Arnold Tyler provided the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi and his undercover alter ego, the bounty hunter, Rako Hardeen. I did not know that. He is so good. He is such a good voice actor. So whether you're a hardcore fan or just a little Swarzy curious, this is your Star Wars Safe Space. We are the Circle of Nerds, and we do absolutely love Star Wars, even if we don't always like it. So let's meet the crew, shall we? Shall we? If I can push the right buttons, as per usual. There we go. Pilot of the infamous Parma Flyer, it's Crash.
How you doing, everybody? S-Foil's locked and ready to go.
There we go. There we go. And hailing from parts unknown, it is T to the Oni.
welcome back to the galaxy, everybody. Let's get going.
Yeah. And I'm that guy, Tommy D. Okay. So what are we doing here? Well, it's very simple. Our mission is to watch all of the Star Wars canon films and TV shows in chronological order, breaking them down, connecting the dots, and learning more about Star Wars and maybe even a little bit about ourselves along the way. So a word of warning to all you would-be Star Warriors out there, there will be spoilers. So please be aware of that. And of course, today we are discussing Season 4, Episode 15, 16, 17, and 18, a very, very cool little arc where we see Obi-Wan going undercover as a bounty hunter to try and foil a plot to kidnap and ransom off Chancellor Palpatine. And there was a lot going on in this arc. That was a great arc, great story arc. We had Obi-Wan having to fake his death. Obviously, because he has plot armor, I think we all knew that he wasn't actually dead, of course. But it was very interesting that Anakin was not brought in on this, and we're gonna circle back around to that. But my first question that I want to ask the crew here is, should the Jedi Council have told Anakin from the start? Should at the very least, like Obi-Wan said, he needed Anakin to sell it. He needed Anakin to not know, to sell it so that, Hardeen would believe it and buy it. So, but I mean, could they at least have told him, when Obi-Wan was getting his plastic surgery done, or did the Council and Obi-Wan make the right choice? Tony, what do you think?
I think they should have told him. I mean, obviously, Obi-Wan was correct in that don't tell him as it's happening, but once it's done, yeah, he needs to know, because I mean, he very easily could have fucked that whole shit up.
He's got a bit of a temper.
I mean, if Obi-Wan didn't grab him like he did and basically give the game away, he would have fucked some shit. That could have been a wrap.
That could have been a wrap. But you know what? Anakin kind of got his ass handed to him quite a bit during this arc. I mean, he was getting beat up. I mean, he got zapped. He was unconscious. He was on his back more often in this arc than I think we've ever seen him so far. He was really eating the humble pie this time around. So, Crash, what do you think? Was the Council right in keeping him out of the loop, or should they have clued him in a little bit?
I agree that it helped sell the initial death moment, but afterwards I really think that, and this is a precursor for what we'll see later on, where Anakin's mistrust of the Council that Palpatine exploits, they sort of brought it on themselves. Like, you could have easily brought him in after the funeral, and just said, "Hey, he's doing an undercover thing. Play it cool." Because even Ahsoka at the funeral was like, "My boy ain't right." He hasn't said a word since
like,
it happened.
I'm worried about Anakin.
I think this record set an episode for like nervous looks by Ahsoka every time Anakin just wanted to go postal on somebody, whether it was at the diner or the Gamorrean, on Nalhutta. Yeah, It was just like he was off the leash, and Ahsoka's just there going, okay.
But he still restrained himself, and I thought that was when he first grabbed Hardeen, who was, of course, was Obi-Wan at the time, when he was passed out in the back room. Anakin could have sauced him right then and there.
Yeah.
But he said, the man you killed wanted you to go to jail.
He was trying to be the better man for the memory of his master. And then when the Council, especially once they took the bounty off, and it felt like a betrayal of, we're not going to bring this guy to justice for killing my master. I could see the strains on the relationship between Anakin and the Council forming already. And like I said, so yeah, my favorite moment was when they intercepted them, on the ships. And like you said, Anakin's, taking a beating because he's trying to take on 3 guys.
Yeah.
And he's in over his head. And you can see Obi-Wan literally like trying to throw the game a little bit just so he doesn't get Anakin killed.
Right.
And it's just Anakin kept walking into punches because his head wasn't in the game until Obi-Wan told him who he was.
Right. And that's something, while Sherry and I were watching it, we kind of saw that as powerful as Anakin is, one thing about Anakin that seems to be different than other people who are, going down the dark path, is that the dark side doesn't give him focus. It makes him even more of a loose cannon than he already is. I mean, he becomes almost Darth Maul savage-like, not quite to Maul's level, but when during the duel between him and Dooku, I mean, there's no style. And Dooku's easily handling him initially. At first, Dooku's easily handling him because Anakin's just enraged and there is no form, there is no focus. But then there was a scene, it was towards the end of the fight, where Dooku has got like this chair up and Anakin pushes him back, and the look on Dooku's face is like, oh shit. Oh shit. This motherfucker is serious and he is powerful. And of course, Papa Palpatine is just grinning like a fucking, a fox in a hen house. Like, yeah, that's my boy.
This was a test. We always talk about Papa Palpatine, whether I love this whole kidnapping plot. You could tell, Dooku may have been the ringleader of it, but obviously Palpatine knew of the plot. He probably orchestrated their side to make it, easy for the balls of Count Dooku to sit there in the Theed Palace in the dining room,
chilling,
just chilling, and knowing that they're going to come right to him. I was like, you crafty little bastard. Like, I know you're in on both. Palpatine's got it in on both sides. And this was the first, okay, whoever wins, I win. If Anakin kills Dooku, I win.
Yeah.
If Dooku kills Anakin, he wasn't ready. I win.
It's absolutely
the first test.
It's a no lose situation for Palpy. So now let me ask you this: this entire situation here, this entire plot, what was the purpose? Was this specifically all masterminded and orchestrated to drive wedges between Anakin and Obi-Wan and the Council? Was it designed to push him a little bit closer to the dark side, or was it orchestrated to maybe show the ineptitude of the council, or was it something else? Like, what do you guys think was, because really it accomplished seemingly nothing. It seemed like it was pointless. We know that Palpatine orchestrated the entire thing, but why? That's what I'm curious about. Tony, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think you hit on it. From Palpatine's point of view, the biggest thing was driving a wedge between Anakin and the council, giving him that sense of distrust that he could then continue to manipulate until the time was right.
Right.
Now, to be honest, like, I don't think they did a very good job of showing it in the episodes. I'm still a little confused as to how much Palpatine knew about Obi-Wan going undercover to begin with. Like, obviously he eventually figures it out,
right?
But I don't know that he was aware that the Jedi Council was doing that, because it sounded like he and Yoda and Mace were at odds about that particular part of it. But once it was in place, and especially once he knew that they didn't tell Anakin, his immediate response was, okay, this is how I'm going to use this to my advantage.
Okay, so you're saying that, maybe Palpatine, he orchestrated this, this kidnapping plot for some other reason, but then, Palpy being Palpy, he was able to quickly pivot and, like you said, use it to his advantage. But I mean, also, who knows how long, Obi-Wan was bugged, at least from the time that he received that sniper rifle.
Right.
But who's to say that Palpatine doesn't have devices hidden all over the fucking Jedi temple? I mean, he could just know everything, like, always, at all times.
True.
Crash, what do you think? What do you think about this?
I think it was a case where, like I said, the council was reacting to a plot, but I think Palpatine was playing both sides of it. The security plan had to be approved by him. He's got Captain Rex, while Anakin's off, chasing down Obi-Wan's murderer, he's got Rex chaperoning him. So clearly
Rex was a bro. Rex was a
and
bro.
would not give him up. Yeah,
even to Mace and Yoda, he was like, sorry, sir, I can't tell you that.
Yeah.
Rex is the bro.
And I think, again, he's obviously instructing Dooku on how to proceed, because Cad Bane was one of his boys. We've seen him in past episodes that Palpatine had a direct line to Cad Bane for jobs.
Yep.
So, however, Dooku and Cad Bane get teamed up, and we haven't even touched the fact that the middle part of this arc was a great case study in the world of bounty hunters. The box episode, I think, is the best.
That was good
episode of the three, because you see what the world of bounty hunters outside of Jango Fett or Cad Bane, there's people out there just trying to earn a living, doing this thing. And they get sucked into this plot. That poor schmuck that Bane sauce just for his hat. I was like, oh, come on.
And you know what? I love that, because that is so Bane. That is so Cad Bane. But to be honest, I liked his new hat better.
Like Ahsoka said, who else wears a hat that bad?
And she was just so disgusted by it. Like, who else wears a hat like that? And I didn't like the hat. It looked like he was going to go plant heirloom tomatoes in a garden somewhere. I like the other one. It had like the cool greeblies on it. It had like a little rangefinder on it, a little antenna. I was like, all right, that's kind of cool. His outfit was kind of dorky, but that hat was freaky smooth. I kind of want that hat for my.
Yeah, that is one of my notes.
What was in your notes, Tony?
Yeah, it's one of my notes in these episodes was, I don't ever want to see Cad Bane without a hat. Like, I don't know if it's just the shape of his head or what, but like, when he is not wearing a hat, he looks like a nothing. Like, he looks like a weak, ineffectual nothing. When he puts the hat on, it's like, okay, yeah, he's a badass.
Yeah. Now he's that gunslinger, but without it, he just has this big old 5 head. It's not even a 4 head. He's just got this big giant dome. But yeah, because then he just looks like any other Duros out there that we've seen, but he's a bad dude. And I can't remember the name of the actor now. It's gone. It was in my brain, it's evaporated. But
Corey Burton,
is that? Yeah, he does the voice of Cad.
He does Dooku and Cad Bane.
Yeah. When I was watching the credits, I saw that role. I was like, holy crap. You know, James is doing Hardeen and Obi-Wan. And then what's the other guy's name?
Corey Burton.
And these are like extremely different types of characters. And it just shows you the amount of talent that Dave pulled together to make this work, because it's just so good. And
this is a fun arc for James, I think, because a lot, like you said, he's played Obi-Wan since the start of the series, but a lot of actors in this show, and Dave Filoni always describes it as his trust tree. You know, the people he brings in. Yeah, this was the episode where James kind of, and he's done it a couple of times, but Dee Bradley does it every episode. But you get to explore a different character through a different voice, even though you're playing the same guy. Like, I love the whole face-off. You know, just swallow this thing, and your voice will magically sound like the guy. And I'm sure for an actor like James, that's just like candy,
right? And it's cool because he also in the episode, when he reports back, you know, he says, I'm rather enjoying playing the villain. And and Obi-Wan said that as Hardeen, but I wonder if that was really James, like, admitting that as well. Like, James is like, he's enjoying playing the bad guy. And it was cool because it was, you know, as I was listening, you know, even though he was doing Hardeen's voice, he still had Obi-Wan's like tone and different inflections and his little sarcasm that he has. So I thought that was really cool. So,
and I like how his code name was Ben.
Yes. Oh, interesting fact about that. You probably already know. That was supposed to have been initially, Ben was supposed to have been the affectionate pet name between Satine and Obi-Wan. Like, that was going to be her little pet name for him. But Filoni was like, it didn't seem right. And then the writers for this episode said, hey, can we use it as his code name? Which just made sense, because that carries over as his code name later on, as we see.
I know a little something about having an alias that people know you by. So yeah, I thought that was a little masterclass in like a little bit of Obi-Wan psyche, where during business hours it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, off hours it's Ben.
Yeah. Or it's just that is the code name that he uses. So when he's undercover, like he was on Tatooine all those years, he was Ben Kenobi. Of course, no relation to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Kenobi is apparently just it's like Smith. It's a very common galactic name, I guess. And of course, we do see Satine and Mon Mothma at his funeral. And I feel bad. I feel like when Satine finds out that it was all just a ruse, I feel like she smacked the shit out of him. I feel like she would.
that hurt. Like, you know, we know they've been teasing their relationship so far,
right?
That they have a past, and you know, Padme's been there with Anakin, you know, for since forever. To have Satine, you know, brought in immediately, like, I don't think this was like it's not like when the Pope dies and they go through a week worth. I mean, Obi-Wan dies, they must have had the funeral like the next day, and for her to like come in last minute notice for her dear boyfriend funeral had to be gut-wrenching.
Yeah, I mean,
and then to find out it's all fake.
But at the same time, I feel like for Satine being a politician, I think initially she'd have some words for her dear Obi, but I think she would get it. I think of all of the women in his life, I think she would be the one that would get it, because I'm sure that she's, you know, she understands the role of political intrigue. I mean, she herself has had to go undercover once or twice. So, I mean, yeah, I think she gets it. I want to talk a little bit, just briefly, about Ahsoka, because you had mentioned Ahsoka, you know, her looks like, geez, Annie, geez, oh my God, Master, what are you doing? But despite all of that, there was a scene that I felt was very powerful. I don't know, maybe it was just more me than maybe it was meant to be, but When they were on Null Hutta, and again, Anakin, he gets on his back, but this time he gets choked out. He gets put to sleep by Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka is standing over his body, sabers drawn, teeth bared, like ready to die for this man. That was beautiful. And she didn't say shit. She was just like, like, I was like, oh, the love. Like, that's not just a Padawan protecting her master. That's familial love. I mean, that is, whew, maybe I'm overreacting. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? I don't know. I thought that scene was just beautiful. Thoughts? No, nothing.
I was Tony. You got one?
So I mean, that scene is definitely in my notes too. And first off, like, it seems pretty clear to me that happened after she did her training with Rex and his boys, because like, I mean, this is going against Cad Bane and presumably 2 other people, but at the moment, Cad Bane's the only one actually shooting at her. But she is like, she's not blinking an eye. She's just deflecting every last shot back. Mm-hmm. And like, I know Cad says like, you're lucky that we got to get out of here. And I'm like, no, I think you guys are lucky right now. Like, she would fuck you up.
Because she's gone. This is not the first time that she's gone toe to toe with Bane, right. And this was different though.
I call my sister Snips because of our relationship, and when Ahsoka came on, I was like, that snarkiness, that banter back, that's us. And I remember when this episode came out, we were watching it together, and Ahsoka went into beast mode, and I just looked at Snips and went, "That's how you fight. If I ever go down, that is how you fight." Because that was just a great Ahsoka moment where, she's still his apprentice, but you could see their relationship growing almost to equals, like Obi-Wan and Anakin were towards the later end of his training, where they're not student teacher, it's their brothers. And with Anakin and Ahsoka, the brother sister, and when the brother went down, the sister just went savage.
She really did. Like, and it was so powerful because she didn't try to attack.
That was total defend mode.
Like, she was in fuck around and find out mode. She was like, you know what? You guys come fuck around and find out what's going to happen. 2 weeks ago, I decapitated 4 Mandalorians. Bring it. I got something for you. And I got 2 of them for you. I was like, oh my God. And you know what? And it's like, this particular scene is one of the reasons that I feel that Rosario Dawson captures that side of Ahsoka just so well. She's just captures that mature, grown Ahsoka, but she still has that level of loyal ferocity, where she will obliterate anything and anyone in her path in order to do what's right. And
and when you see her fight, you see Rosario fighting Hayden in the other world sequences, there's a little bit of that. You can see that, like, she can go toe to toe. Anakin's a tank. He swings for the fence, and she can give just as well as he can.
And it's also interesting to see that as they are very, very quickly almost becoming equals. And I think Anakin, especially now in season 4, Anakin is really coming to trust her more, to rely on her more. And she's almost becoming, for lack of a better term, a caregiver to him. She's there to keep him out of trouble. I mean, how many times have we heard, hey, keep an eye on Anakin? I mean, it's not just Obi-Wan and Mace and Yoda. I mean, other people have said, hey, keep an eye on Anakin, make sure he doesn't, but, and she does it, like, without hesitation, without a second thought. And it's just such a beautiful relationship. And it just gets me choked up because I know what's coming. And it hurts my heart. Anyway, moving on. A couple of standout moments. I want to know what your standout moments are. I had a couple. One, the Size Noodles. I can't talk. The Size Noodles cameo where she's coming out of the bar. I love Size Noodles because she just continues to live her best life. I thought that was just great. And we had a Boba Fett cameo, which was a little awkward. Why do we have a child in prison with grown folks? I maybe the Republic's a little more loosey-goosey about that sort of thing, but it just seemed odd to me that you've got this adolescent youngster in prison, and also are some of the clones on the take? Because we had those two clone troopers bring Hardeen to go and see what's his name in Cad Bane, and then he called for them to take him away. So like, the guy was like, yeah, I have a lot of influence in here. Does he have influence over the clone troopers?
Well, again, Palpatine's orchestrating the plot to kidnap himself. I could imagine he has, especially, I've always felt like, and I have no canon back to base this, but the red branded,
they're the Imperial troopers, yeah.
They're always around Palpatine. That's I don't know if that's his private detachment or whatever, but when I saw them running the prison, my first thought was, okay, these guys are in on it. They're there to keep the prisoners in place. But I have a feeling you get the right prison guard, and all of a sudden, this place is Shawshank.
Right.
The crooks are on the inside, and you think about it that way. Even some of their brothers getting sauced in the escape attempt didn't matter to them.
Yeah, and it's like we like to think that the clone troopers are all, of good moral fiber and incorruptible, but they're still they're humans. And I think we've pretty well established that we can consider them human with all the same strengths and weaknesses. But I agree. I think you have a great point there. I think that, the Imperial, well, not the Imperial, but the Senate. Well, they're not even the Senate ones, but I know they become the Imperial. They're the red ones, the red guys.
The red markers,
yeah. They're taking orders maybe directly from Palpatine himself. So if he's like, yeah, let this guy go see this guy, they're going to be like, you got it, sir. And then, so they might not be on the take maybe necessarily, but they're just following orders.
Right.
But could they be on the take? Do you think? I mean, could they be?
I think
that fallible?
Yeah.
It can be. We see it. It's not something that we you talk about too much, but we see it in in prisons in our current reality where there are some people who are underpaid and will take advantage of getting a kickback or whatever from the criminal elements on the inside to let them get away with certain shit. So in the greater aspect of things, does it make you wonder a little bit? Yeah, but I wasn't surprised by it.
All right, that's fair. But I wonder now, like, are they just following orders from their superiors, or are some of them taking bribes? I don't know.
Well, you remember Slick?
Mm-hmm.
Betrayed his own unit on Christophsis. So I think it's fully possible that there could be a couple clones, a handful of clones, a batch of clones, that are on, for lack of a better term, on the take with the criminal element, because to them, what's the point? We're bred as these disposable soldiers for this war we didn't start, and if somebody's offering them a chance at maybe getting out of this life, maybe that's a very tempting offer for some.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true. Because we do see how the clones, they do become disillusioned. They do question orders, not directly, but amongst themselves. They do question orders. They're still driven by this sense of loyalty and brotherhood and honor, and they have their codes. But the on Umbara, when we've got Fives and Rex talking about it, the clones in the background were starting to take sides amongst themselves. You know, they were questioning, you know, Krell's bullshit, not to him directly, of course, because they're still struggling with the fact that they want to be good soldiers, but they're starting to realize that there's more to life than just that. Yeah. And I love how this series shows the complexity of the clones. It's not just, they're not droids. They're, you know, they've got feelings and thoughts and emotions, and some of them have dreams. Some of them may want a life after the war. They question, when the war's over, what happens to us? You know, and I can't imagine what that would be like, you know, for these men who are giving it all, literally, and then to consider that one day their shelf life is going to reach its expiration date. And then what happens? Where do we go? What are they going to do with us? Are we expendable? We know we're expendable on the battlefield, but when the war is won, what happens to us? You know, and it's got to be pretty anxiety producing for them, you know?
Oh yeah.
I mean, we do know that some of them go on to become trainers in the Stormtrooper Corps, but certainly not all of them. Yeah. You know, so man, I love this show. It's got so many layers. So the big thing I wanted to talk about too was the stuff that's going on between Anakin, Palpatine, and the Jedi Council. You've got Jedi arrogance and lies and manipulation alongside Palpatine's manipulations and lies. And in this arc, we saw him being just especially slimy and just really getting that disinformation out there. It's like, oh, I can't believe they don't trust you. And, you know, it's just, he's just planting these little poisonous seeds. So given all of this, do you think that Anakin ever had a chance of not going to the dark side? I mean, was it at this point, is it just inevitable? Forget what we know about, you know, his future, but at this point, is he fighting? Because he fights to be good, and we see that struggle in him. But is it pointless? Like, does he have a chance at all to not turn to the dark side? What do you guys think?
So, as somebody who has not seen anything beyond what we have discussed, I think the only real chance that he would have had to not end up as Vader is if something similar to what we know ends up happening to Ahsoka happened to him. If something happened to make him just walk away from the Order, period.
Right.
Maybe he could have had a life and not have become Vader. But so long as he is a Jedi, he is doomed to that path.
Crash, what do you think?
There's a great line from one of the books, the more recent, you know, current canon books I like. It goes like that. It matters which side we choose. I don't turn towards the light because it means someday I'll win some sort of cosmic game. I turn toward it because it is the light. And that was said by Qui-Gon Jinn. And I think that exemplifies, you know, they always refer to that fight in Phantom Menace as the duel of the fates. And later that, you know, they came out and said the duel was for Anakin's fate. And I think it just shows that Palpatine, you know, let Maul kill, Qui-Gon had to die.
Yeah.
Qui-Gon would have been the perfect master for Anakin. He would have raised him to the light. He would have raised him the right way, regardless of what the council thought and did. So you have to kill the good influence, the good little angel on your shoulder, so that the bad little devil on your shoulder can influence you on both sides. I think that the Jedi, we've seen already in this show, and we know later on, Mace Windu had reservations about trusting Anakin, and that led to things.
Yeah.
But it shows that the council screwed up in not trusting Anakin and lying to Anakin, just almost as much as Palpatine lies to Anakin and manipulates Anakin. And I think it's the two sides playing him the wrong way that lead him down this path. I agree with Tony. The only way he even had a chance of not becoming Vader would have been to leave the Order and just go off with Padme and have babies and live a life. But I don't know if that would have been enough. I think he needed a good role model like Qui-Gon Jinn. Obi-Wan tried. He even says, "I was wrong."
Yeah.
I tried to train him just like I was wrong. Qui-Gon, I think, would have been the only one that could have kept Anakin on the straight and narrow, and that's why he had to die.
Yeah. But I think Qui-Gon would have had to leave with Anakin. I don't think that he could have trained and raised Anakin properly in that environment. I think that he would have been stopped or stymied by the council. Palpatine would have continued to manipulate. Like the two of them would have had to like straight up dipped out to Tatooine and been cave hermits there and studied, in the living force. And then maybe when Anakin was ready, then come back and, assume his role as the chosen one. Because under the influences that were there currently, that was, I don't know, Tony.
So I agree with your sentiment. That being said, I think Qui-Gon, another reason why he had to go, I think Qui-Gon's the one person who would have eventually seen through Palpatine.
Oh, I agree.
Oh, 100%. No doubt about it.
And so, I don't think necessarily Qui-Gon would have had to dip out. I think it would have ended up being Qui-Gon and Anakin versus Palpatine.
Yeah.
And that would have been the battle.
Yeah.
Eventually. As opposed to Mace versus Palpatine.
Right.
With Anakin on the sideline.
But it would have had to come 10 years later, though, at least, or maybe even more, maybe 20 years later. But yeah, I agree. That would have been a hell of a fight. That would have been a hell of a fight. So then really, if you think about it, that wasn't, and I'm assuming that Palpatine knows that as well. So Qui-Gon being killed was more of an assassination than anything else. Like that may have been Palpatine's plan the entire time. Like, we're going to get rid of Qui-Gon, this person who would be Anakin's anchor, would have been, that touchdoone for him. So we need to assassinate this guy.
I forget where I heard it, which book, whatever, but I think there have been sort of rumblings that Palpatine saw Qui-Gon as a threat.
Yeah.
More so than the Jedi Order as a whole, but because Qui-Gon had a different philosophy about the Force and everything that didn't necessarily play into Palpatine's manipulation. He saw above the BS. And
you're right, because he wasn't blinded by arrogance.
Exactly. He didn't have that arrogance to just think that he knows he's right.
Right. Just because I'm a Jedi, that means I am all wise and all knowing, and I know what's best because the will of the Force tells me so. And it's almost like the difference between like a conservative Christian and a Buddhist. It's like, you've got that attitude and you've got that arrogance on one side, but then on the other side, you've got that vision, that sight, that clarity that allows you, Crash, like you said, to see above and beyond all the bullshit, to cut through and to really examine the Force for what it is. And we see that by Qui-Gon coming back, and then teaching the others how to come back. That's powerful. I mean, you talk about a pure connection to the Force. I mean, that guy had it, man.
Qui-Gon's my boy.
Qui-Gon, man, he was so good. I wish we could have gotten more. Hopefully we'll get more. I'd love to see more in like another like Tales of the Jedi and see more of Qui-Gon coming up.
And the Tales of the Jedi was great with the way they interspersed little connections. I love one of my favorite episodes in that whole thing was when Qui-Gon runs into Yaddle and Dooku at the elevator.
Yeah. Which
again, I know you're big on talking about these things in a timeline order. That was a glue moment. We've Phantom Menace. There were gaps in the story because we go to other places and we see other things. To show Qui-Gon while he was alive, knowing that Dooku was in the temple while young Anakin was in there and going through the tests and all that. It just sort of adds that extra layer of nuance to this story where it's not just about where the camera's pointing in the movie. There's things happening off to the side, and there's other branches in this story that are happening that are relevant that you can tell later on in a show like Tales.
Yep.
That just adds so much more depth to it. I love Bryce Dallas Howard Yaddle adds so much to what was just a background Muppet in the movie.
Right. And ended up giving her not just a voice, but a very important story. Where you're talking about all this connective tissue, and she was a big part of that. I mean, because of Yaddle, we actually got to feel for Dooku for a moment and see his conflict and see his regret and his hesitation to do these things, but he's twisted by that version of the greater good.
And it was so easy to write. Christopher Lee was a great actor. Was a great actor, and we all know him from Lord of the Rings and all the Dracula. It was really easy to write off his character as like the spooky Sith character. But to see that there was a conflict in him, especially and I dare I say a little bit of justification. The episode when him and Mace are investigating, and Mace gets the promotion, and he gets turned aside. You almost kind of go, "That's where Palpatine got at him."
100%.
That was the plot armor that he dug under and said, "Hey, the Jedi Order screwed you. Come with me, and we'll fix the galaxy. We'll make it right."
Well, and Palpatine is great about this, but using someone's pain against them, and that was something that I really liked from Tales as well. Is seeing, Dooku was hurt by the passing of Qui-Gon Jinn. I mean, he's very stoic, he is Count Dooku. He is that guy, but man, you felt it. You felt that he felt that loss. And I think that was another chink in his armor that Palpatine was able to exploit.
Which is yet another reason why Qui-Gon had to go. I mean, if Qui-Gon hadn't gone, Palpatine might have not gotten Dooku.
Man, what if, this thing, we could talk about what ifs all day, but what if Dooku and Qui-Gon had both trained Anakin? And then the three of them went after Palpatine. Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be done.
I can't imagine that. That would be a hell of a fight. That would be a hell of a fight. But
I mean, a reality where Dooku, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Anakin are all on the same side.
That's a wrap.
Yeah,
it's a wrap. I mean, whoever's coming towards you, it's a wrap.
And not to get too far ahead, but in Ahsoka, Hugh Yang tells us she comes from a very unusual line of Jedi. Dooku is part of that chain.
Yeah.
When he trains Qui-Gon and Qui-Gon trains over, and you go on and on, but it's just again the potential of that branch that had it not been broken off by Palpatine's manipulating it, it could have drastically changed the story.
And it's just amazing. It's amazing to see all these threads and how everything is so connected through the Force, and how Palpatine is just out there like what is it, like in Greek mythology, the fates, with pulling threads and snipping threads and weaving different threads together, and Palpatine's doing that. I mean, and he's doing it with master strokes, and it's just, if he wasn't such an asshole, it would be a pleasure to watch him work. But man, fuck you, guy. I mean, fuck you, Palpatine. Shit.
Yeah.
He's just so kind of reminds me of somebody else.
Yeah.
In current history, but anyway, we won't get into it. Because politics has no place in Star Wars. I've actually been seeing that a lot on on social media, in different forums, different groups. They're like, keep politics out of Star Wars. I don't. It's like, you dumb motherfucker. Star Wars is politics. Like
morality tales are about politics and doing, it literally is, are you doing right or are you doing wrong? And guess what? If you find yourself on the wrong side, you can't excuse it with just say, well, your politics are different. No, there's a great social media meme. I don't disagree with you about politics. I disagree with you about morality.
Yeah.
And there's just certain things that are right and wrong, and how we live our lives, and we go back. Do we choose, like I said in there, do we choose the light because it's the light, or do you choose something else because of your politics? And Palpatine plays people's politics to get them to not choose the light.
And it's just, and it's interesting too, because when we look at Star Wars throughout the years, especially the original trilogy, George was very political. The original trilogy, the very first Star Wars film, it is a cautionary tale. It is a cautionary tale to help us recognize what fascism looks like. It's to help us recognize what a dictatorship looks like. There's a reason why the Empire was based off of certain real life elements, and why the Rebel Alliance was based off of the Viet Cong. As we grew up, watching Vietnam War movies and things like that, here in the US, the Viet Cong were considered the bad guys. I grew up with that, watching Vietnam War movies. They're the bad guys. Our boys are the good guys. But in the grand scheme of things, they were a ragtag group of individuals defending their homeland against a superior colonizing force. So it's like, oh man, it's very complicated. It's like, my uncle was a Vietnam War veteran, and I can't, and as a veteran myself, I can't not thank him for his service and his sacrifice. A lot of our boys went over there, not of their own free will, by the way. As we know, many, many, many people that went to participate in that conflict, they were drafted, join the army or go to jail, go down range, go to Vietnam or go to jail. That was the choice they had. They didn't want to be there, that's the thing. That's what Star Wars is showing us. Star Wars is showing us that the Empire, from George's vision, from his point of view, that was kind of the U.S. That was kind of the U.S. Empire at the time. And our plucky band of rebels, that was, he even said that. George has come out to say that he based the rebels off the Viet Cong. So Star Wars is politics. You can't have Star Wars without politics and lightsabers. You just can't. It just doesn't happen.
And the same is true with Clone Wars. Dave's doing some masterful storylines in the political realm.
Mm-hmm.
The Ryloth arc, was about liberating a local people, but also a fear of being exploited by your liberators. And we're going to get a little, not to get too ahead of the game, but we're going to see a little taste of that later in Bad Batch.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and there's even more to come in Rebels.
And and we've seen so far. You guys were talking last season. There was the Lux Von Terry. When they go to the Separatist capital, not everybody's a big fan of the Republic, and they got some legitimate beefs.
They do. So it's while with George there are clearly defined lines between light and dark, but it's not always clear who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. It's like Yoda said, it's always, or in Obi-Wan, it's always from a certain point of view. It just depends, and even with George, and we hear that great line, in the prequels where Obi-Wan says only a Sith deals in absolutes. There are really no absolutes, and that's why the Sith fail, and that's why the Jedi fail, because they kind of pigeonhole themselves into these absolute light and dark sides, and that doesn't work for any of them ever. Like it never works out. Like you adhere to the light side. That didn't work out. You must adhere to the dark side. That didn't work out because now we got the rule of 2 and one of them is going to kill the other one. That's just like, no, that shit doesn't work. And then we see Ahsoka. Ahsoka's walking that middle path. You know, we see much later on. It's not canon anymore, but you know, we see the Imperial Knights. You know, they're neither light nor dark. They serve the Fel Empire, but their lightsabers are white. You know, they're neutral and all that. And you know, these are the things that I think George really wanted us to understand, is that, you know, you find that middle ground. You know, you walk that middle path. You know, there's light and dark in all of us. You know, and we get to see more of that in Rebels, and Rebels gets deep. And I haven't seen all of it, so I'm looking forward to it. We've still got 3 seasons of Clone Wars to knock out, and then we're going to be diving into Rebels, and I'm really looking forward to, because I haven't seen all of Rebels in its entirety, like, you know, back to back to back. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Do you guys have anything?
I've got a few notes here that we didn't go over yet.
Let's do it.
First off, another counter on the lame naming of bad guy characters for Moralo Evol.
That's his name.
Just a terrible name. Secondly, I don't recall seeing this character before, but I want to see more of them. Embo.
Oh yeah. Oh, we've seen him before.
So I wasn't sure. He reminded me of one of the characters from. There was one of the episodes from one of the last seasons where there was a band of
the bounty
hunters. The
pirates. Yeah,
I wasn't sure if that was the same character or not. But,
it is. It was a very Seven Samurai type of episode where the bandits were coming after the town and they had to teach the town.
He was one of the bounty hunters that the locals hired to fend off Hondo's gang.
Right.
Yeah.
And he became an instant beast mode. Captain America with a hat.
Right.
I remember when they first introduced him, and everybody was like, "This is going to be." There's always that fan thing of who's the new fan favorite going to be, and there was a stretch where with Clone Wars, Embo was going to be the guy. You know, the new Boba Fett, the new.
I know we didn't get much of him. We only got a few times with him, but he's so cool.
Yeah, great character.
Like he's like Captain America. Like he did that little slide. He was like using his hat as a sled and as a shield, and he's just a bad dude. Because he's got those samurai vibes, and so it was perfect to have him in that episode that was based on the Seven Samurai, and we see that again in The Mandalorian, the TV series. I think it's the first season. When him and Cara, when Din and Cara go to that little town with the blue shrimp, and they teach them how to fight and all that.
Yeah.
So that's another Seven Samurai theme. But of course, that's Star Wars. Star Wars is based off of Akira Kurosawa films and all that fun stuff. So, what else you got, Tony?
And then the last big note that I have here is, and it's a plot hole that leads to some other questions. What exactly was the plan for the real Rako Hardeen? Like, okay, so the Jedi caught him pretty quickly, knocked him out, you know, made Obi-Wan into him.
Yeah.
But then just left his body laying there. Like, what was the plan?
No, they took him.
Because then Obi-Wan finds him, turns him into to other clones.
Yeah.
Who would presumably go, wait, we already have this guy in custody. What the fuck? But that didn't happen. So either they were on the take and knew about the plan, even though Anakin didn't, or what?
Or they're just not asking questions. They're like, oh, it's the Jedi again. Let's just take him. Oh no. but Hardeen is in Guantanamo Bay right now. I don't know what happens to him. I haven't looked it up, and I don't want to look it up. I kind of do, but I don't know if we see him again. I don't think we do.
They may have held him at the Jedi Temple. We saw an acolyte that they had detention cells of their own.
Yeah, and that would make sense. Except if they were going to do that, why not do that there? Why was he left for Anakin to find?
No, that was
what if Anakin didn't find him? Where
that
would he?
Was Obi-Wan.
That was Obi-Wan.
That was Obi-Wan.
They already made the switch.
Obi-Wan. Yeah, they had already made the switch. That was Obi-Wan because Obi-Wan Anakin took him to jail. So when he was found drunk, that was already Obi-Wan.
Oh, okay. All right. In that case, never mind. I thought that was two separate things.
No, but you're also not wrong, because we don't really get any closure on Hardeen, on the real guy. Like, where is he? It's just like, oh well, fuck that dude. We don't care. Because we don't. I don't know. I'm sure it's on a wiki somewhere. It's on Wikipedia. I'm sure we could look it up. But at the moment, I don't know what happened to that guy. Maybe we'll see some more of him. I don't recall ever seeing him ever again.
No.
I mean, presumably you wouldn't, unless he's yet another one that they managed to let him escape from prison. But
he's in some intergalactic Gitmo right now. He's somewhere Guantanamo Bay on the Outer Rim. That's where they put him in the deepest, darkest place, because they can't have him talking.
Right. And that was kind of my thing. Was I didn't realize that they had already made the switch, and that person that Anakin found was not actually, like, I thought Anakin found the actual Hardeen after they'd made the switch.
Yeah.
Like, I thought they did whatever and just like left him to rot, as opposed to getting rid of him and replacing him right then and there.
No, they took his ass out of circulation. They needed to.
Okay.
So
well, that makes sense.
And also I'm wondering if that, because Anakin does mention feeling a connection, and once it's revealed who Obi-Wan is, I'm wondering if he felt it in that room, which is why he didn't really fucking go ham on this guy, because maybe he felt something was there.
You think his midichlorians were kind of like, hold up.
Maybe. Oh, and speaking of midichlorians, when Hardeen goes into the bar and that girl at the bar was like, I'd like to check his midichlorian count. That was like such a corny line. Like, really? Like, everybody knows about midichlorians? I really thought that it was kind of just like a Jedi like thing. But I guess any random chick at a bar knows all about midichlorian count, and I guess that's a test of virility, I suppose.
She wanted a little force in her. That's all right.
Right? Oh, maybe she's into the force choking. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure Padme is, because she's a dommy mommy with her breakup. We'll talk about that though later, because that was just terrible. It was terrible. All right, Crash, you got anything?
We kind of bookmarked around it, but like, I want to know what you guys thought about the episode with the box challenge. I thought that was the best.
We really didn't talk about that, did we?
And just from like I said, from the fact that, like, this season was hinted about being, introducing us more to like the bounty hunters of the galaxy. I really thought this was after a story arc like Krell, where it's focused about clones.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a great, the whole plot thing of, okay, now we're going to dabble in the lives of bounty hunters, and we're going to draw different. It's almost like that classic lineup from Empire Strikes Back, where all we knew about Bosk and IG-88.
Mm-hmm.
There was this group of unaffiliated bounty hunters who have to learn how to work as a team. And to your point, I think Obi-Wan doing, we know the sniper case was mic'd,
right?
But I think just the fact that he was doing so well in the early tests, I think that was the first eyebrow raised for Dooku that something was shady,
right?
And you can see it in his face where he's like, "Oh, the new guy keeps doing well." The one that
keeps saving people,
and he keeps saving people, and because like they say on later on Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Jedi can't help themselves. Even Obi-Wan undercover, he couldn't let bounty hunters die in a death match. Because that's just not in his nature.
Right.
Yeah, that was something that I had considered, because like, when he drops down and finds a pathway underneath, like, part of my mind is going, obviously we know Cad Bane's a giant thorn in the side. He's done a lot of bad shit already.
Yeah. We
know he's going to do more for sure. Outside of Embo, I'd never heard of most of the other characters, but again, they're all bounty hunters. They've all done some bad shit.
Sure.
All all Obi-Wan had to do is not say anything and just crawl away, and they'd all be gone right now.
Very true. Very true. I did feel that Evol was trying a little too hard to kill everybody, because it's like, motherfucker, you still need 5 people for this job.
You still need a notions team, and you're trying to off half of them in the trial.
Right. And he's like, yeah, don't worry, the next one will definitely kill people. It's like, dude, fucking relax. I mean, you still need some dudes to pull this fucking, like you said, it's an Ocean's movie. It's a heist. It's a caper. You still need your crew, and you're letting your ego get the better of you. Yeah. But I agree. I thought it was a great episode. I like that it was something different. It was, we're seeing how the underworld operates, just how little Dooku thinks of any of these people. You're all just tools for me to achieve my master's ambitions, and agendas. So I don't give a fuck who wins. I just need 5 of you pieces of shit to go do my job. And
presumably, if I have to imagine that Dooku's plan was, if more than 5 survived, somebody was going to get killed.
Yeah.
Well, like anybody that was not chosen was going to get killed, because you can't risk, a loose lip.
Well, and they said that. Yuval said that. He said that, anyone who's left over,
you'll be silenced to protect the plan.
Right.
Yeah.
So, because when they go to the final round, we've got 6 people, and I was like, oh, I feel bad for one of you.
Yes.
But I do find it interesting. Another really good point about this episode is that we actually get to see some of Cad Bane's morality.
Yes.
And I thought that was interesting, because he's not like this unscrupulous, amoral bastard. He has a code. He wants to fight somebody straight up. He wants to look a Jedi in the eye. He's not impressed that you just sauced a Jedi with a sniper rifle.
Mm-hmm.
You want to impress me, do it face to face, toe to toe. You're not going to use all these little tricks from the box to fight this guy. You're going to do it like a man. And he saves Obi-Wan,
who he hated the whole time. He didn't want to bring him along. He hated him on the trip. He wanted to ditch him the first time. And then by the time, because Obi-Wan's, by solving the first couple puzzles, he saved his ass.
He did.
And I think there was a little bit of respect there by Cad Bane, and it showed a little bit of weakness in Marvel, where it was just like, okay, you may be this grand strategist, but you don't have a code. You don't have any honor, even among thieves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that was interesting. Cad Bane is still very much a bastard, and he'll save your life today and drill you in the gut tomorrow and double cross you for some credits, but you'll see it coming. And that's the thing. You may not see the double cross, but you'll see when he points that blaster at your gut, and like he said, fills you full of holes. So I have a bit more respect for Cad Bane, and he is still, in my opinion, the greatest bounty hunter in the galaxy. He, like, to date, he is still a superior bounty hunter to Boba Fett. Boba Fett got all the attention, but Bane is superior to Boba Fett in every way.
If Jango had lived, who do you think would be the alpha?
Bane.
Okay.
Without a doubt. Because I think with the Fetts are, I don't think that they are necessarily as ruthless. They are, both of them, Jango and Boba alike, they are cool, they are smooth, they are calculating, they are smart, they are very, very good at what they do. They also have their codes of honor. Whether that comes from a Mandalorian code, we still don't know, because we still haven't had any confirmation that we've got that broken chain code, and that's pretty much all we have. No one has really come out to say that the
Jango was in the fouling.
Right. So non-canon sources, yes, we have. He was in fact a Mandalorian, but anyway. I think at the end of the day, I think Cad Bane would come out on top. I think that he is. The Fets are more noble, if that makes sense. They're scoundrels, but they have this sense of nobility about them. They're almost like they're almost like Ronin, I would say. They are masterless samurai. You know, they are knights that don't necessarily have, you know, they don't serve a king, you know, but they still have this code in some way. And Cad doesn't really have that. You know, he has his own moral code, but it's more his ego. He's like, I'm not a little bitch that's going to snipe someone. You know, I'm the big dog. I'm going to take you out eye to eye. But
I did watch last week's episode when I was away last week at MegaCon. I did watch the episode. I like that you finally, you know, like a little chink in your armor with Mandalorians. Pre-Vizsla, you know, Cad Bane's a very almost pre-Vizsla. He doesn't have that code. He does not have that on. You know, he likes, you know, Pre-Vizsla is all about the, you know, the warrior side of Mandalorian, but he doesn't have the balance of the nobility of Mandalorians, and that others do.
And the thing with Pre-Vizsla, I think he's another one where his intentions were just, but he got lost along the way and straight up became a terrorist. You know, like I think he has a twisted version of the Mandalorian code of honor, you know, but it's just, he's so far gone. And he's been manipulated by Dooku and Palpatine as well, you know, and the other, and, you know, so it's, you know, yeah. So that guy, fuck that guy. He gets what he gets, and I'm happy about that, but fuck that guy. But at the end of the day, if you're talking about the baddest bounty hunter in the galaxy, it's Cad Bane, 100%, because he's the only one who's still working, you know. He is still alive. I know the events at the end of, you know, The Mandalorian, you know, he's still kicking. That dude's still alive. And Boba Fett is semi-retired. You know, he's kind of retired into a life of, you know, a leisurely crime lord, just kind of hanging out, kicking it. And, you know, it's, you know, interesting, you know, before we wrap up, I watched, a couple days ago, I watched the clip with Boba Fett fighting the stormtroopers when we see him in The Mandalorian. And first he's doing it with this gaffy stick, and then he sees his armor inside Din's ship, and then we see him again. He's like fully kitted up, and he just fucking wrecks everybody. And it's like, that's the Boba Fett that everyone wanted. But then we do end up seeing a different side of him where it's like, you know, he did what he had to do in that moment. And it's like, he's not soft, but he doesn't necessarily want to be that guy anymore. You know, doesn't mean he can't do it. Like, don't mistake his kindness for weakness, you know, just because he's not going to, you know, fucking put a saber dart in your eye right now. That doesn't mean that he won't do it later.
Well, it'd be interesting to see how Cad Bane would respond to being chucked down a Sarlacc for a couple months. You know, like that's a life altering moment for you. You know,
now, I will say that had that been Cad in the belly of the beast, he wouldn't have survived. Like there's no way. That was
the armor. Yeah, was what saved him. But just mentally, like. Because you're right, Cad Bane, you know, he's still living the life because that's all he knows and that's all he wants. Boba, well, we're getting way off topic here, but
I know
Boba, you know, wanted out. I think we wanted out maybe because his dad wanted more for him than just being another him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Boba kind of reminds me of like a John Wick type character where it's I've had my moments. I've been the badass. I don't want to do that anymore. But if you push me, it's all still there, and I will bring it to force.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that he's at that point in his life where he's made it. This is like, I know a lot of people were upset about, you know, we got to see Boba Fett in The Mandalorian being Boba Fett, being the fucking hardcore badass that we always knew that he was. But then in the book of Boba Fett, we see him so much more, I guess, docile, you know, still very capable, of course, but it's just not, he just doesn't want to be that guy anymore. He wants to fucking retire. I think he deserves it. I mean, dude has gone through some shit. I do hope, and I don't know if it'll happen or not, but I would love to see a scene between Boba Fett and Han Solo. I want to see them in a cantina somewhere. I want to see Harrison Ford and Tem just at a bar, Boba Fett, Han Solo, just two old adversaries having a drink. And I don't know. In one of the books, there's a cool scene like that.
Well, in one of the books, Boba gives him a gauntlet. He gives him Mandalorian weaponry for,
because it's like it's like, I caught you, but you're still the one that got away.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just, God, even if it's a short, even if it's not even a part of anything else, I would just love to see the two of them together in the same scene, sitting at a bar somewhere.
Harrison, if you're watching, because we know you're watching, if you could do Red Hulk, you could do. We'll do a Tales. Just come and do some voice work.
Tales of the Bounty Hunters. It can be one episode, just the two of them.
I want, and I know he doesn't want to do it. I want live action, and Harrison, I know he doesn't want it. He's wanted Han Solo dead since Empire Strikes Back. He's wanted him dead, and I get it. I understand, Harrison. We love you, but I'm telling you, man, Ford, Morrison at a bar in their gear just for one scene, even if it's like a post-credit scene, just do it.
Just doing the Dark Knight Rises, across the bar, just like the head nod, like, okay, it's over.
Even that would be great.
Yeah.
Even that, Han raises his glass, Fett just does his infamous nod, fade to black, done. The Star Wars fandom would fucking implode. I promise you, it would be an implosion. It would be like the Death Star exploding and then imploding. It would be like one of Jango Fett's seismic charges. That's what would happen to the fandom. It's like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to Dave. Let's reach out to Filoni and say, come on, Dave, can you please make this happen?
Everybody, just get on your phones. Let's text Dave right now and just say, Dave, make this happen.
We need to make this happen.
Make this happen.
I mean,
really, what we need to find a convention where both of them are there, and we can just shoot it ourselves.
It's fine. That's fine. But Harrison doesn't do conventions.
We were talking about Snips and I were talking about this on the way back from MegaCon. I love Harrison Ford has reached the point in his life where he don't give a F. Even these people doing the Captain America press tour, they're giving him some kind of silly softball questions, and you can just tell he's like, well, did you feel silly doing the motion capture?
I saw it.
And he goes, it's called money.
That's what the money's for.
That's what the money's for. I think he's got that very casual matter of factness that's great, but I don't know if he or we or collectively all of us could emotionally survive. Like, you've all seen those people in line at cons that ask like the silly question and and they got to tell their life story for like 45 minutes. It's like the bro would need. I would need weed to survive being in line with the Harrison.
I don't think
because these people would just.
There would be a lot.
Insane.
It would be rivers of nerd tears because Harrison would not have the patience. He's a nice guy, but he's a fucking smart ass. He is Harrison fucking Ford.
And half the comments afterwards would be, he was so glib. He just brushed me off. Well, you acted like a dummy in front of him.
Right. Just be cool. Just say, hey, Harrison, how's it going? Can you sign this? Great job. Loved you and everything you've done.
I know we're all about the positive energy, and I try to be like, even at cons, I try to like be supportive of people. Like, when you see them and they're getting all, it's exciting. Of course. To meet these people. Ron Howard was at MegaCon, and I was, just there for a photo op, like giddy, because I'm like, I love his work. But you just gotta, if you're listening, if you're new to the concert, let me explain. When you meet these people, Ashley Eckstein does this great like breathing exercise where you take a deep breath for 3 seconds, hold it, let it out, have a little mantra, do it a couple times, chill the F out. when you meet when you meet these people in public, because they're just people like us.
Ashley's a rare one, though. I mean, she really does know how to connect with the fans, because she herself is a fan.
And we were talking about before the show. She's so good to the people that come see her, because she appreciates them. And I think with Clone Wars, the whole cast, James, Matt, Ashley, Dee, when they're out on the circuit, you can kind of tell they're not on the level of a Mark, or God help us, a Harrison. Carrie was great. She was everybody's crazy aunt. We call her the space mom.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that when we lost Carrie to the Force, Ashley is the new space mom, because she's accepted fandom and just welcome them in, and she takes care of them.
She's our big sister. I feel like she's like everybody's, or she snips. Big sister, little sister, she snips. But you're right. Carrie was the crazy aunt that everyone wants to hang out with. Like, she's the one that you would get your first sip of beer from, like, without your parents knowing about it. Yeah, Aunt Carrie got me drunk.
I got a photo with her and Mark Hamill, and she just grabs my arm and just wrapped me around her for in between the two of them. I'm like in a headlock from Carrie Fisher. I'm just going, this is the greatest moment of my life.
Yeah, of course. I never got to meet her, but I did get to see her at Celebration Europe. She did a panel, or she was up on stage. I think she was up on stage with Mark. And it was very cool. It was very, very cool. So she'll always be royalty. All right. On that note, do you guys have anything else
about these episodes? No, it was a good arc. If we were giving Blast Report, I would say this was a very solid story arc.
I agree. Mm-hmm. We've got some more coming up. So homework, a little bit different this week. For homework. So you're going to be watching in this order, episode 1, Tales of the Empire. Episode 1 is very important. Just that. And then you're going to watch Clone Wars season 4, episode 19, 20, 21, and 22. So we've got a little extra. We got 5 episodes to watch this week, and that'll wrap our season next week. But so remember, Tales of the Empire, episode 1. Go no further than that. Just Tales of the Empire, episode 1, because it ties in directly chronologically with Clone Wars episode 19 through 22. So there you go. And of course, after you do all that, catch up on all of our past episodes. Be sure to tell your friends, tell your enemies to give us a listen, or to give us a watch on YouTube, or listen to whatever podcast platform you like. And of course, now it is time for the obligatory pimping that Tony has been so subtly hinting at. It's on my notes. I've got it. But thank you for reminding me, because sometimes I do forget. So yeah, check us out on all the social medias, primarily YouTube and TikTok, at the SWS Show, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast and to our YouTube channel. And if you'd like to get some of that swell merch that you see T to the Oni wearing right there, head on over to our website, circleofnerds.com. I need to do a little bling up here on the screen. Circleofnerds.com/merch, and you can grab some t-shirts, some hoodies, all that good fun stuff. I got a hoodie. I lost it. I don't know what happened to it. So I got to order another one, which is fun.
Wow.
I know, yeah.
First try.
Nice. First try, yeah. I have them labeled this time. So I just need
to finally got around to the labeling. Nice.
Only after like 30 episodes. 30 episodes in, I got it. It's fine. All right. So check us out on the website. You can also see what's coming up. I'm thinking I'm going to put the full chronological timeline up on the website. So, I mean, it's going to be, everything. It will show everything in order. For the most part with Clone Wars, we're kind of out of the weeds of jumping around. There's still a few episodes, but there's still going to be some other things mixed in. So I think maybe I'll put that full roadmap up and maybe break it down for our seasons. I don't know. We'll see. I say I'm going to do things and I don't do them because I forget, or I end up playing Fallout. So,
but meanwhile, this video will be available on YouTube in June.
Ish. God, shut up, man. I know. I'm like 5 episodes behind. I know. I'm so bad. Okay.
And if anybody's watching on the YouTube, I am the G Cricket. I'm the one posting in the comments on the episodes. I'm like, oh, I missed this episode. I got to talk to the guys in the comments. So yeah, if you want that one guy we were having the live stream battle with, if you want to come at me, bro, I'm always in the comments on the YouTube. Have fun.
Yeah, that guy hasn't come back, so but we also haven't posted anything since then. So all right. So everyone, thank you so much for tuning in this week or whenever you're finally listening to this when I finally get it uploaded. We absolutely do thank you. We know that you could spend your time anywhere else and you choose to spend it with us. So thank you. Thank you so much. And of course, as always, a very special tip of the hat to our veterans and active duty military members for their service and their sacrifice. So thank you so much for that. And as always, Star Wars, remember, if no one does anything nice for you, do something nice to yourself. And we will see you next week. Yeah.
Next week.
Yeah, maybe. All right. It's going to be a good one. Very interesting episode next week. I think we've got some Dathomiri witches happening next week.
Nice.
Yeah, we've got some stuff going on with the Brothers Mall. So interesting. So tune in for that. Do your homework, and we'll see you next week.